For over 50 years, the Society for Nutrition Education and Behavior has uniquely focused on supporting nutrition educators by promoting quality research, effective programming, and sound policies to help ensure good nutrition for all. To honor SNEB's contributions to the public health, the SNEB Foundation is sponsoring a history project with a glimpse into the past, how and why the society began, and how it's been a driving force in the evolution of nutrition education as we know it today. Most of the food and nutrition education programs and publications during the late 1800s and mid-1900s came out of the United States Department of Agriculture. Nutrition was still a young science, but knowledge was expanding rapidly, with research conducted primarily at the land-grant colleges and universities, supported by the USDA. Home economists working in the cooperative extension service at these institutions translated research-based food and nutrition information into recommendations that the public could use in their daily lives. For example, they sponsored educational programs, food demonstrations, and cooking schools in local communities to teach women and children about planning and preparing balanced meals and how to safely handle and preserve foods grown by their families. This era was also a time of dynamic social change. The Industrial Revolution had moved young women and their families away from rural areas and away from their mothers and grandmothers, who would have taught them what and how to cook. During World Wars I and II, food rationing was an issue, as was the poor nutritional status of young military recruits. Women worked more and more outside the home, and new technologies dramatically expanded the food industry, creating hundreds of unfamiliar new food products. Nutrition education became more important than ever to meet the public health needs of this changing society. The early 1960s was another time of change. The diets of Americans had become a major concern, from malnutrition and hunger to overnutrition and unbalanced diets, increasing risks for health issues like heart disease and diabetes. People became more interested in what they should eat, but were confused by new nutrition information. Many turned to food faddism for easy answers. Nutritionists realized that doctors and other healthcare professionals did not have enough knowledge or skills to help their patients improve their diets. Against this backdrop, in 1962, George Briggs, chair and professor of nutrition sciences, and Helen Ulrich, nutrition specialist in agricultural extension services, both at the University of California, Berkeley, organized a 2-week workshop on the current status of human nutrition. This brought together academic departments and state agencies concerned with food and nutrition. During his closing remarks to the 900 participants, Briggs suggested the need for a journal to promote sound nutrition education, which should be, quote, aimed primarily at professional persons who are engaged in the wholesale distribution of nutrition information to the lay person, end of quote. The creation of the Journal of Nutrition Education played a major role in the formation of the Society for Nutrition Education, which Briggs saw as filling a hole left by other professional nutrition associations at the time. His vision was for the new society to focus on the discipline of nutrition education. SNE would publish a scholarly journal, make recommendations for food and nutrition-related legislation, and hold annual conferences where nutrition education professionals could meet and develop collaborative relationships. The first issue of the Journal of Nutrition Education was published in 1968, and its first editor was Helen Ulrich. In November 1969, the 5 founding members of SNE met with others from colleges, universities, the food industry, and professional organizations to explore the expansion of the society. The attendees voted unanimously that SNE should become a membership organization and that George Briggs would be its first president. This meeting was held just before the December 1969 White House Conference on Nutrition and Health, where policymakers, nutrition educators, food scientists, and researchers from across the nation discussed the state of nutrition and health and what was being done to improve the diets of Americans. The need for such a conference had been made clear by several high-profile events that exposed extreme levels of hunger and poverty in one of the wealthiest nations in the world. These included Senator Robert F. Kennedy's tour of the Mississippi Delta in 1967, the 1968 Poor People's March on Washington, and the CBS documentary Hunger in America, which shocked the American public. Cooperative Extension had also turned its attention to the undeserved, leading to the creation of SNEB, the expanded Food and Nutrition Education Program in 1969. The White House Conference revealed a huge gap in translating nutrition science into useful and practical information and was extremely important to the development of nutrition education as a specialty. The founders of SNE were in a prime position to help address the issues raised, and the White House Conference influenced the direction SNE would take in its formative years. In this photo, George Briggs is handing Dr. Jean Maillet, chair of the White House Conference, a copy of one of JNE's first issues, reflecting the key role that the Society would play going forward. The White House Conference prompted more national studies and political action to address the health and nutrition of Americans. Results from these studies in the early 1970s led to the expansion of the food stamp and school lunch programs, as well as the creation of WIC, the Special Supplemental Nutrition Program for women, infants, and children. Federal funds also increased for food and nutrition education in Head Start, WIC, food stamps, child nutrition programs in schools, and through public health nutrition education grants. As more funding for nutrition education in these programs expanded the need for qualified nutrition educators, nutrition education as a discipline in colleges and universities grew exponentially. These new nutrition education professors, students, and community leaders needed opportunities for continuing education and professional growth. SNE became their organization, and they became integral to the growing membership of the Society. Annual meetings offered a forum for communication, collaboration, networking, and mutual support among its members, as well as updates in nutrition science. The conferences and the journal became important resources for researchers to present their work and for SNE members to learn about innovative and effective strategies. Nutrition educators found themselves in new and different arenas, and it became obvious that just telling people what to eat for health didn't always work. Researchers and practitioners began looking beyond the individual. How does their food environment make a difference? What policies and changes in the larger food system could make it possible for people to put knowledge into practice? What role could the food industry play? What strategies work best with what populations? What about food safety and the ongoing problem of food insecurity? What community partnerships could be formed? How do all of these factors combine to make a difference in what foods people choose to eat? SNE members address these questions head-on through multidisciplinary research, collaborating with the government, the food industry, public and private sectors, and disciplines such as psychology, agriculture, economics, marketing, and communications. An example of these collaborations and SNE's leadership was highlighted in the 1980 supplement of the SNE Journal, which includes the entire proceedings of the first National Conference on Nutrition Education, Directions for the 1980s. Dr. Joanna Dwyer, past SNEB president, was the program chair and editor of the supplement. As the field of food and nutrition education became more multidisciplinary, in 2002, the name of the journal was changed to the Journal of Nutrition Education and Behavior. This name change highlights the importance of translating information into actionable behaviors and how the many areas in a person's life influence these behaviors. Then, in 2011, SNE members voted to change the name of the organization itself to the Society for Nutrition Education and Behavior. To make sure that nutrition educators can translate food and nutrition information into action, the Society took the lead to develop professional competencies that define the knowledge and skills educators need to be effective. The first set of these was published in the journal in 1987. But just as the science of nutrition, nutrition education research, and practice continue to evolve, so too has the scope of the knowledge and skills nutrition educators need. As a result, the Society revised its original set of competencies to better reflect the educator who can promote healthy individuals, as well as healthy communities and food systems. A position paper detailing how and why these competencies were developed was published in JNEB in 2023. And is on the SNEB website. The competencies also will be used in conjunction with outcome goals at the annual conference and other SNEB-sponsored programs. SNEB has always attracted members from diverse backgrounds working in diverse settings. Recognizing the need for members to network and collaborate with others who share their interests, the Society created divisions that went on to become a way to organize conference sessions, pre-conference workshops, and other activities. By the 1980s, there were 8 divisions, but that number has grown to 12 today, reflecting the broad scope and complexity of the field. While not actually a division, the ACPP, Advisory Committee on Public Policy, researches upcoming legislation and provides written comments and oral testimonies at public hearings. For example, they have worked and commented on the Farm Bill, child nutrition legislation, food labeling, the dietary guidelines, and funding for nutrition education research and programs. Each division chooses a liaison to the ACPP, and members can weigh in on the comments before they're reviewed and approved by the SNEB Board of Directors. SNEB is an international organization with members from several nations. It has formed partnerships with international nutrition education societies, including the Korean Society of Community Nutrition, the International Foundation of Mediterranean Diet, the Japanese Society of Nutrition and Dietetics, NNED Pro, and its Global Institute for Food, Nutrition, and Health in the United Kingdom, and the International Academy for Nutrition Education. And in 2018, SNEB received special status to consult with the Economic and Social Council of the United Nations. This gives the Society the opportunity to expand its international reach and to help increase access to evidence-based nutrition education to policymakers, interested NGOs, educators, and others around the world. You can read the full account of these international efforts on the SNEB website. Finally, in 2023, SNEB formed a Committee on Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion to help integrate DEI into every aspect of the organization. SNEB will actively work to ensure that the next generation of practitioners is diverse and equipped to support justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion principles in their work. With this snapshot of SNEB, the Foundation introduces the History Project. It will include a series of short video interviews with past presidents and leaders who have made major contributions to the growth and development of the organization. For a more detailed account of the Society's early years, Helen Ulrich's book, The SNE Story, 25 Years of Advancing Nutrition Education, is available to read online at the SNEB website. The first phase of SNEB's History Project features interviews with 3 influential leaders who were involved in the early stages of SNEB's development and helped shape the Society, as well as the field of food and nutrition education. During their interviews, they share their insights, experiences, and visions for the future. Dr. Joanna Dwyer, the 9th SNEB president from 1976 to 1977, looks at the achievements in food policy over time, how the Society has worked with other organizations in the past, and how that should inform future activities for the organization, especially those at the international level. Dr. Isabel Contento, president of the SNEB Foundation 2017-2019, describes how she and her colleagues came to recognize the need to include the disciplines of the social sciences, such as psychology and anthropology, in the development of effective nutrition education programming. She also discusses the new competencies in more detail. Dr. Contento's definition of nutrition education is featured on the SNEB website. Dr. Joan Gusso, the 12th SNEB president from 1979 to 1980, talks in part about being a pioneer in encouraging sustainable food production, promoting local foods, and the need for the food industry to provide healthier food choices to the consumer. There is no doubt that the breadth and depth of nutrition education will continue to expand, and the Society for Nutrition Education and Behavior and its members will continue to be at the forefront of growing and developing the field. This history project highlights the important contributions of SNEB and its early leaders that we might take for granted. It's important for nutrition educators to learn about and build upon the Society's past achievements to help address the challenges and take advantage of the opportunities the future may bring. Please visit sneb.org to learn more about the Society for Nutrition Education and Behavior.